Hello, Blue Devil fans, and welcome to another DukeReport.com video recap. It's been a few weeks since our last recap with the holidays and everything else going on, so we've got a lot to catch up on. Let's get started with Duke versus Gonzaga. A lot of people thought Gonzaga would really test the Blue Devils, and the first half made the game look like that could be the case, with Duke missing a ton of wide-open shots. But once the basket started falling for the Blue Devils, this one was all over. Jon Scheyer had a great game with 20 points, to go along with 8 assists as he continued to make a case for ACC Player of the Year. Nolan was absolutely brilliant this game. He scored 24 points on 10 of 18 from the field and a perfect 3 of 3 from three-point land. In the end, Duke won by 34 points at Madison Square Garden, their home away from home. Next up is Duke's 84 to 63-point win against Long Beach State. Everyone played pretty well in this game. Singler had a particularly good scoring night. He had 14 points and was really good from behind the arc. Smith chipped in 19 points on a great evening. Miles played really well on both sides of the floor, offensively and defensively. And Scheyer had a ridiculous night with 22 points and 7 assists with 0 turnovers. That's just amazing. This game also brought one of the more bizarre things I've ever seen on a basketball court. At the very end of the game, one of the Long Beach State players just launches the ball straight up in the air. Doesn't even look like he's aiming for the basket. And the ball winds up getting stuck on top of the shot clock. I mean, I've never seen a ball get stuck there before. Overall, this was a really good win for the Blue Devils. But moving on, we've got Duke's 114 to 55 embarrassment of Pennsylvania. I actually felt sorry for Penn. Obviously, in such a blowout victory, everyone played well. I mean, Miles Plumlee played well, Lance Thomas had a good game, but Duke's big three were absolutely amazing this game. Singler, Smith, and Scheyer might just be the best trio in all of college basketball. Singler had 20 points in a really solid night, Smith scored 23, and Scheyer scored 19 points. What was really exciting for Blue Devil fans was to see Mason Plumlee break out of his shell this game. He had 18 points, and he was 7 for 10 from the field. It was great to see him be that aggressive and take that many shots, and he gave us our first real look at what he's capable of. But, you know, the best part of the Penn game wasn't just the great plays by all the Blue Devils, it was all the extra filler stuff to keep fans engaged amidst the blowout. They had a vote for Duke's best player of the decade, and the choices were tough. I mean, you got Battier, Redick, Jason Williams, Sheldon Williams, Chris Duhon. You know, just take your pick. I mean, come on. You also got a chance to do the same for Penn's players, but, I mean, unless you went to Penn this decade, you've probably never heard of any of these guys. But you probably have heard of Denzel Washington, who happened to be at the game supporting Penn and sporting a very, apparently itchy beard. Duke opened up ACC play against Clemson and beat them convincingly in a 21-point win. Just a fantastic way to start off the conference season. Duke's big three showed up as usual. Singler had 16 points on a really great night, and Smith and Scheyer were each fantastic. Smith scored 22 points, Scheyer had 22 points, and they were hitting shots inside, outside. Both of them were pretty much unstoppable. So not only was this a great way to start the conference season, it was also some really, really good revenge after Clemson's big win against Duke last season. Next up, Duke traveled to Chicago to take on Iowa State. This was another solid win for the Blue Devils. Everyone played pretty well. Miles had some really good plays, Nolan hit some big shots, and Mason had a few really good plays as well. But Jon Scheyer was in front of a hometown crowd, and he did not disappoint. He scored 31 points and dominated pretty much every aspect of the game. I mean, he hit shots that were tough shots. I mean, contested runners in the lane, outside shots, you name it. And it's because of games like this that people have started talking about Scheyer not just as an ACC Player of the Year candidate, but we're talking first-team All-American candidate. He's playing that well. So, good job, Scheyer, and obviously Mom and Dad are proud. Duke's next ACC game was at Georgia Tech, and Duke struggled in this one, losing by 4 points. You got to give credit to Tech. They played fantastic defense and really forced the Blue Devils to get into foul trouble pretty early. Singler had a really off game. He was only 2 of 13 from the field, but there were some positives for Duke in this one. Scheyer had 25 points. He played fantastic. And Miles and Mason Plumlee both played really well, being matched up against some of the best frontcourt players in the conference with Derek Favors and Gani Lawal. Mason Plumlee had by far his best game as a Blue Devil, especially considering the competition. And so, even though Duke struggled with their best players, I mean, Smith and Singler weren't that great, it was great to see some of the other guys stepping up, and it was great to see that Duke's bigs might actually be able to contribute offensively against some really good competition this season. Duke rebounded with a 20-point victory over Boston College despite some really poor shooting from the perimeter. This win was a balanced effort. Miles played very well. He had a couple of really nice plays inside. Scheyer was solid, though not as spectacular as he's been in recent games. But Singler had one of his best games in a good while. He put up a double-double and was a big part of a huge Duke scoring run that started the second half that really gave the Blue Devils the lead they needed to put this game away. The player of this game, however, was no doubt Nolan Smith. He had 24 points, matching a career high, and he scored in a variety of ways. I mean, he hit shots from the outside, he's shown a really good stroke this season, and he made some extremely impressive and athletic plays around the basket, finishing through contact, and just finding a way to get to the basket when it looked like there wasn't a lane. Obviously, Coach K was very impressed with Nolan's play, and so was Nolan's good friend and former teammate Gerald Henderson, and Gerald Henderson's ridiculous haircut was also very impressed with the way Nolan played, so way to go, Nolan. Next up for the Blue Devils, the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. This was a really hard-fought and tough game. It featured a few scary falls on the part of Mason Plumlee and Kyle Singler, but fortunately it didn't look like either of them were hurt seriously. The Blue Devils played really well this game against a really good Wake Forest team. Kyle Singler had one of his best games in a long time. He had 21 points and 15 rebounds, despite shooting pretty poorly in the first half. But the game ball definitely belonged to the Plumlee brothers. Miles Plumlee had the game of his career with 19 points and 14 rebounds, and Mason Plumlee chimed in with 11 points and 7 rebounds. That means the two of them combined for 30 points and 21 rebounds in this game. That's the second game they've played against really good front court competition in the ACC, where they have performed at a very high level, giving Duke fans a lot of hope for the future of Duke's post-play. And that brings us to our top plays of the last few weeks. I'm going to go a little bit outside of the box with my runner-up. It wasn't actually from a Duke player, but it involved Duke, so I'm going to go ahead and count it. It's actually Doug Gottlieb's absolutely flawless ability to suck up to Jason Williams at halftime of the Penn game while simultaneously being his narcissistic self. Just watch, you'll see what I mean.
Jason Williams, I can just tell you, as a point guard in the same era of college basketball, he was as dynamic both off a ball screen and an isolated situation. Good luck with that, because not only would he break you down and break your ankles, he could shoot over you, and then if help came, he was willing to pass the basketball, had over 600 assists.
Doug, just want to say great job on not only, showing your obvious man crush with Jason, but simultaneously reminding us that, yes, you did play college basketball. Yes, we have not forgotten that. We know that you played college basketball. You mention it every single time you broadcast a basketball game. We understand. We get it. Let's just move on, okay? But great job once again. That was perfect. All right. I know that wasn't really a legitimate runner-up, so we'll give you a bonus one. It's the Wake game. A loose ball turns into a monster jam for Mason Plumlee. Take a look at it again here. Hopefully we'll be seeing a lot more of that this season. And now for our top play. This one's also coming from the Penn game, and with a blowout like the Penn game, you're just going to have a lot of top play candidates like this. But this was a great play that started with Nolan on the break and finished with Mason at the rim. You got Nolan passing it to Singler, who gives it up to the freshman, who finishes with authority. I mean, just a great way to get Mason involved and help him build some confidence. So let's watch it again from a few different angles, but that is your top play of the last few weeks. The Blue Devils are 15-2, and they definitely look poised to win the ACC once again. This is DukeReport.com saying, go Duke, and go to hell Carolina. Or, you know what, better yet, just go to Charleston.